Welcome to Live with Thrive, the podcast dedicated to empowering Black and Brown women who are navigating the complexities of balancing womanhood, motherhood, and career. I am your host, Dr. Allison Harris Welcher, creator of Thrive Life Coaching. In each episode, we dive into uplifting conversations with trailblazing women who share their transformative journeys and powerful strategies for thriving in every area of life. If you're juggling a demanding career, family responsibilities, or aiming for personal growth, this podcast provides the inspiration and actionable insights you need. Join us as we celebrate the strength, resilience, and achievements of everyday Black and Brown women just like you. Together, we'll explore how to not just survive, but truly thrive in every aspect of your journey. Good evening and welcome to Live with Thrive. I am Dr. Allison Harris Welcher, and I'm very excited for you to join me this evening for a very special episode. Before we begin today's episode, I do want to provide a trigger warning. In this episode, we will be touching on sensitive topics, including miscarriage, pregnancy loss, infant loss, and the emotional and physical challenges that come with these experiences. We do understand that these topics can be deeply personal and potentially triggering for some of our listeners. So if you feel that this content might be distressing, please do take care of yourself and consider whether or not this is the right time, or if at all, for you to listen to this episode. Your well-being is important to us, so thank you for understanding, and we hope that this conversation brings support and insight to those who need it. As we begin, we want to be sure to recognize October as Infant Loss and Pregnancy Loss Month. It is important to highlight that Black and Brown women face higher rates of pregnancy and infant loss compared to their white counterparts. Systemic inequalities in healthcare, lack of access to proper prenatal care, and implicit bias contribute to these disparities. Research has shown that Black women are up to 3 times more likely to experience pregnancy-related complications, and the emotional toll of such losses is often compounded by inadequate support systems. Tonight, again, we have a very special episode with a very special guest, and the title of our episode is Growing Through Grief and Embracing Your Purpose. This episode will touch on these issues as we speak with our special guest, Melissa Cooper, who will share her powerful story. We're honored to have Melissa here with us, and as I welcome her to the stage, please join me in welcoming her and sending her special love. Melissa?
Hey.
Hi, Melissa. Welcome.
Thanks for having me here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I am honored that you agreed to share your story with us in this very special space. I know this is a very special and sacred story to you. So we want to honor you and your family and honor Faith and her legacy this evening as we hope to just inspire other women who have maybe had this experience and also really inform and build awareness in our community as well. Awesome. Well, we're going to go ahead and dive in. Listeners, as always, we welcome you to this sacred space. Again, if you're just joining us, tonight's episode will be focusing on infant loss and pregnancy loss and discussing the experiences that Black and Brown women in particular experience. If you feel that this episode or this content might be sensitive or triggering to you, we do ask that you please take care of yourself and make the decision whether or not you should tune in this evening. Guest, if you're here, please let us know where you're tuning in from. We are excited to welcome guests from all over the nation. So please let us know. But Melissa, let's dive in. You've been through such a deeply personal story and experience, you and your family, after your third pregnancy and the loss of your daughter, Faith. And so I would love just to start with you sharing as much as you would like just about Faith's story and how that experience affected you, not only physically and emotionally, but also spiritually.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for asking that question. Faith is me and my husband's third child. She is our daughter. And I had an opportunity to be pregnant with her for many months. And probably after, like, probably in the second trimester, going into the third trimester, I ended up rupturing pretty early and was hospitalized for about 3 weeks. And from there, I just had some severe complications in the hospital and delivered her early through an emergency C section. And shortly after she was born, we thought that she was going to make it. She was in the NICU for about 4 days. And unfortunately, she had a brain hemorrhage. And so on that fourth day, she passed away. And, whether you've lost someone through a miscarriage or a baby miscarriage, which we have as well, that was our first pregnancy, or SIDS or stillbirth, or, infant loss. I mean, it's a hard hit. And I think when that happened, I don't think I was like fully prepared for what was going to happen. A lot of people who know me know faith. Like, my faith is really a core value, the first one for me.
Mhm.
So even when I was hospitalized, I just remember the Lord putting in my spirit to read the book of Job. And
Mhm.
I was like in the hospital room and I said, Lord, I don't think so. I'm not I'm not trying to read the book of Job because I already know what it entails.
Mhm.
But shortly after she passed away, I probably a couple of weeks later, I went into the book of Job and read it from start to finish and, saw what the Lord did for Job, but then also like the hardship that he had to face.
Yeah.
So I would say as far as like the physical and emotional, I mean, physical, when you give birth, your body already goes through so much, but to have to, go through an emergency C-section like that,
Right.
physically, like I wasn't even prepared for that. I just
Mhm.
was being told that was going to happen. And I feel like there was this small window of time where I was trying to look up, what is a
Mhm.
C-section? How are you going to prepare for this? Like, I
Right.
was
Right.
about the like long-term implications of a C-section, and I wasn't even really thinking about how long it was going to take my body to fully recover from it.
Right.
Emotionally, of losing a child is just really tough. Losing anybody is tough, but losing a child is tough just because like there's these memories that you have of them that they have not yet done. So like
Mhm.
when I think about Faith, I'm like, oh, it would have been great to, celebrate. I believe she probably would have been like 2 or 3 right now, but
Mhm.
celebrate her birthday or celebrate her wedding or so like
Mhm.
just because I had this beautiful opportunity to see her.
Yeah.
And just it just rocked us emotionally and spiritually. There were many times where I asked the Lord why, and there were many times where I was really mad with the Lord.
Yeah.
We prayed for this child, you gave us this child, but now she's gone.
Yeah.
And sorry, I just feel like I would want to cry, but I just hold it back.
Yeah.
But that's tough. I mean, I think I had to do a lot to like work through that pain,
Right.
and I still do. Um, but those are some things that it was a really like hard situation for me and my husband to go through.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing that story. And Melissa, as we talked in, our prep and pre-show, so many women, don't know, they're not aware that this is even a possibility. And,
Mhm.
just I'm hoping this conversation can open, a lot of folks awareness and build understanding. And, if the tears flow, let the tears flow.
Yeah.
Let the flow. It's a part of the process for sure. You spoke about, God telling you to read the book of Job. And so
Mhm.
I'm curious, in what ways do you feel like God was preparing you for this loss? And how did that really shape your healing moving forward?
Yeah. I mean, one, the book of Job was really profound because why would God, when I'm sitting in a hospital room, why would he put that in my spirit to
Mhm,
read that?
mhm,
And at
mhm,
that time, I was just like, I'm not reading that, Lord. I love you, but not right
mhm,
now.
mhm,
I think
mhm,
the other thing is how he was preparing me for her loss is I still remember the morning that she was going to pass. And I just, at that moment in time, I was in so much pain from the
mhm,
surgery. There was just moments where I really like it was hard for me to get up. Like my husband would roll me in the wheelchair down to the NICU to like
mhm,
sit down with Faith. But even that was really tough for me to do was to sit down because I like my body was just in just so much pain from that surgery. Um,
mhm,
and there were things that she had to receive a lot of in the NICU. There was things that I had to receive in the hospital room as well with like blood transfusions and things like that.
yeah.
But I remember the day that she transitioned that morning, there was something in my spirit so profound that it was like, you need to get up and you need to go see her now. And it
Mhm,
was like I just could not like I don't know, it's like you see your baby, all the
mhm,
time when you're in the hospital, but there was like there was this moment where I just really wanted to rest. And that was actually the day that I was supposed to leave the hospital. I was supposed to be like actually exiting that day.
mhm,
And I just felt like the Lord was saying, you need to go see her like now. So I remember going to like, I don't know how I got down there. My husband probably wheeled me down there or a nurse, but I
mhm,
went down to the NICU and I just sat with her. And even throughout those days, I would sit with Faith. And I would tell my husband and I would like sing songs to her. We would play praise and worship. We would read to her. We would tell her about her name and how she was named.
mhm,
Um, and I would tell you just that morning, the NICU nurse asked, like, do you want to, feed her? Do you want to do certain things? And so
mhm,
I think that they were also in a place of probably preparing me that there was something that was like going to happen with
mhm,
her that day. Um, but yeah, I mean, I just felt like the Lord told me to go see her. And then finally, once I went to go see her and I left, then unfortunately, the next time I saw her, she was just really fighting for her life. And then she passed away shortly thereafter that. So
mhm.
I'm
Yeah,
just thankful that God put in my spirit to go see her so I could just spend time with her
yeah.
before, she transitioned on. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Melissa, you talked just a little bit about the, physical pain. And then on top of that, then dealing with the grief of loss. And that
mhm.
certainly just sounds incredibly challenging. And you mentioned even being angry, right? And being upset with God. What are some of the frustrations you face, especially just as you were trying to heal your body and go through this grieving process? How did you cope?
Mm, um, One, how did I cope? I think when I got home, it was just a lot of wailing, a lot of crying. I think if you sometimes look at National Geographic and you see the mama mammals or bears and they lose a cub, or they don't know where their cub is, they have this like large, this wailing or this loud crying. And
Mhm.
that's, I did a lot of that for a while.
Yeah.
Because it was just it was just disbelief. Like I'm walked into this hospital pregnant and almost felt like I was gonna walk out with her and I didn't get to walk out with her.
Yeah.
And that's just a really hard feeling to have. So
Yeah.
I did a lot of crying. Honestly, at that time at our church, I was in another small group,
Mhm.
and one of the women in the small group had informed the pastors, pastoral care at our church. And so they ended up calling and reaching out to us. And our pastor came over and checked in with us. And then we had some folks on staff like do a virtual call with us and they shared some resources. So I'll be honest, when I left the hospital gave us a box and they had us talk to a chaplain. And it's nice to get a box. I'm not knocking the organization that does that because I think it's really good to at least have some type of resource to like read. But at that moment in time, you're not in a space where you want to open up a box and read. Like you are just so out of loss of words and you're just so in constant disbelief of what happened.
Mhm.
Sometimes the best medicine is to talk to people and connect.
Mhm.
So once we connected with our church, they connected us, I believe, with one organization called Grief Share.
Yeah.
And we
Mhm.
talked about that. And that was just excellent. Grief shares for anybody going through any loss at any age. And that was really powerful for me and my husband to start going through together.
Yeah.
There was a book and it just helps you walk through grief. It helps you to understand grief. It helps you to really understand how God, still loves you through it all. And like, you don't need to be like, yes, you might be mad with God, but like ultimately God is like almighty, all powerful, all knowing. So like just putting your trust in him. And also at the church, someone had shared a great organization called Rockabye Angel. And so that was an infant loss organization where they do a lot of things virtually and in person. But that was really a catalyst for me because Angela did such a beautiful job in creating a series of like a curriculum.
Yeah.
And there would just be nights where I would she's like, okay, we're going to meet each week. But I would just go and watch the videos ahead of time because I was going through so many emotions and I was like, is this real? Is this supposed to be the way that I'm feeling?
Mhm.
Is this the way I'm supposed to be questioning things? And it was like every time I watched her video would like affirm, being angry and like really connecting with God and all those things. And so I would say like Angela, Rockabye Angel, and Grief Share were like really pivotal for us, not to mention like the people like our family and friends who were around us through that too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I love hearing that you were able to lean on a village and support to really help you through this time. And you spoke about, you going through this, with your husband. And,
mhm.
research shows, especially published in the Journal of Family Psychology, it found that parents who have experienced the death of a child are at a higher risk of separation or divorce
Mhm.
than others who have not. And so, talk just a little bit around how you and your husband connected during this difficult time and even maybe grew closer together through your pain.
Yeah, I mean, going through the loss, there's so many triggering things that can happen. And I mean, in your marriage, either you're going to embrace each other and hear each other, or you're going to walk away from each other. And I think
Mhm.
we just made a choice to like stay connected. I just remember sometimes when I was like in our guest bedroom, the bed is a lot lower. And so that's where I just needed to sleep because like I just could not get out of our higher bed at the time. And
Mhm.
so he would just be in there with me and just comfort me. We would comfort each other. Um, Also, I would say you also have to know when you have to back off. So if there was times where I was heavily grieving, I
Yeah.
would walk in the room and just shut the door and like do what I needed to do. Or he would go upstairs and shut the door and go through his own grieving process. But we were still there for each other, but we still gave each other the space to do and to grieve how we needed to grieve.
Mhm.
Um, Also just having honest conversations that weren't always the toughest, that weren't always the easiest too, about like the pregnancy or about, how situations happen in the hospital. Just really having honest conversations. But, marriage is, beautiful, but it's also a lot of work.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of communication. But I would say our greatest foundation is God. Like that's what it's always been. Me and him always talk about this every so often, but I think back to our premarital like
Mhm.
survey or whatever you take assessment. And our biggest strength is our foundation in God. So regardless of what happens, we still
Yeah.
come back to the center and the rock of
Yeah.
who keeps us together. And so I think we rested in that and we just gave each other the space, but we still came back and knew that, we had to lean on God and trust God and be discerning with how he wanted us to move.
Mhm.
Um, I will say like he still supports me through that. I still support him through that. There's still moments that are really tough for both of us.
Yeah.
And we have to apologize and keep moving forward because
Mm.
it's tough.
Yeah.
But we still, he still helps me through that journey. Like even when my body was, I remember it's been, faith passed a couple of years ago, 2022. I couldn't even work out. Like I would lift a 10-pound weight and I would just strain myself in my stomach. I went through so much physical therapy to like strengthen my core back. And
Mhm.
I finally just started working out again, but he has been with me on that journey. He would say, "It's not time to work out yet." And I was like, "I really want to work out because I'm kind of gaining some weight. I've got to feel some type of way about this." And he
Yeah.
was like, "It's just not time yet." So even just being honest
Mhm.
about where we were and what we can and cannot do with our bodies,
Mhm.
was also something else. And I was incredibly thankful that he was with me on the journey of going to a lot of doctor's appointments and just like having my back in those spaces. And like he would have his phone up and say, "Okay, what questions are we going to ask the doctor today? Like what are some things?" And sometimes he would just say, "I'll, help you in asking the questions and things like that." But, you
Mhm.
know, I just feel like you have to really, through that loss, you have to be grounded and know that God is your rock and center of your marriage.
Mhm.
And through whatever winds and things come your way, like, I think we just have had a solid foundation since we've been together. And I'm thankful for that.
Yeah, that's a beautiful blessing, and I appreciate you just really expounding upon that, just how, the anchor that you have that can really get you through anything. Certainly, I'm sure when you all, said your vows and got married, had no idea what would be in your journey, but knowing, that you all had each other and the common commitment to God and to continue to have God at the center and core, was something you could always come back to, for sure. As we think about this topic overall, Melissa, pregnancy and infant loss are often surrounded by silence and stigma. Um,
Mhm.
and, why do you think these topics remain so taboo? I mean, quite honestly, it just was not anything ever talked about in,
Yeah.
up until even beyond when I became a mother, until, one of my closest and dearest friends experienced this. And, just talk with me why you think and what you've experienced around why and what needs to change, right? To make this a conversation that we need to have.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of times it is a taboo subject. I didn't think it was going to ever happen to me again. I mean, first time I had a miscarriage, then I had my son, and then when Faith was coming, I was like, okay, this is fine. It's going to be good. And then the loss happened. I don't know why it's a taboo subject. I just know it's a really hard topic. I don't think anybody wants to really talk about death.
Right.
Um, and I also just think people just don't know how to talk about it and engage with people. I remember when Faith passed and I went back to work, and there were some people who like lovingly embraced me and was like, "Hey, what do you need?" And there were
Mhm.
some people who like never said anything at all. And I was
Mhm.
like, it was
Mhm.
just kind of like, I've been gone for the last like 3 months and I'm back, and you're like, have shared no condolences and those things. But honestly, in Grief Share, they taught to you, they actually taught us on that. Like some people just don't even know how to engage and talk about grief. They don't even know what to say,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And so sometimes it's a taboo subject because I just don't think people know what to say or know how to embrace it or know how to talk to people about it. Or people could be scared. Like, is it going to happen to me? Or like, should I communicate with this person? I'm thankful for our network because I don't think I really met a lot of people who did that. I think there's a lot of people who just like really fully embraced us and like supported
Yeah.
us through that moment.
Mhm.
Everything from sending us flowers, or like a really good friend of mine who would like come over or like talk to me about different health things that were coming up.
Mhm.
People who would buy us gift cards or bring over meals. I mean, there were just so many people who surrounded their arms around us during that time. And I was like super grateful for that. A lot of people who prayed for us. But I think it's just a hard subject, and I don't know if there's like a lot of awareness about it. Like, I think there's awareness about it, like Black women who passed away from it, or like Black children,
Mhm.
Black and brown children who passed away from it, but I don't know if we like put it out there as much. And
Mhm.
I don't know. I think it's like it happens and you suffer in silence and you talk to maybe a few people and then that's just pretty much it. And you just kind of tuck it away.
Yeah.
And as a woman, you'll kind of go back and try again to like get pregnant or adopt or do those other things.
Right.
But sometimes I just think we tuck it away. It's like out of sight, out of mind. And I just want to not
Mhm.
relive the experience over and over. And I think that was even for me for a long time. I was like, I just kind of don't want to
Yeah.
talk about it. I don't want to acknowledge it anymore because the pain also can be really hurtful
Yeah.
too, to relive the experience. But what I'm realizing is God really kept nudging me to share this story because we do need to talk about it. We do need to talk about if you're pregnant, how to prepare and how to advocate for yourself in the hospital or the medical system. If you do go through a loss, you do need to talk about it and help people and have people help advocate for you, like when you're recuperating from that, right? Like I didn't even realize I needed to do physical therapy, like that I had to go back because my C-section was so brutal. Like
Yeah.
I think the more we can talk about and have conversations, the
Mhm.
better. But
Mhm.
sometimes it's just a replay of it. So it can be
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Melissa, thank you so much for sharing that. And, I'm prayerful that, folks who are listening, are one, building their understanding and knowledge and awareness, but also can share with others to make sure it's a conversation that we open up, right? Because
yeah.
no one should go through this alone. Thank God you had a church family, right, who had
Mhm.
immediate resources, to be able to send you and support you, and were able to surround you, but no woman, no family should ever experience this alone. And you're right. We hear so much about Black maternal health, right?
Mhm.
And the experiences and disparities that, women have. But this is also a part, right, of that journey. And you just
Yeah.
never know what will be a part of your journey and your
Yeah.
story.
The
Yeah.
only thing I'll say too is I also think it's just important as like people, whether men or women, to like really just listen to your bodies
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
really advocate for the things that need to happen. There was some things I was experiencing during my pregnancy, and when I would share that, I don't think my doctor at that time was really hearing what I was saying, or I don't know if I was describing it the right way, but I knew there was something off. Um,
Mhm.
and I don't know if I was really heard. And so I would even encourage women who are pregnant and you're going through something. If your doctor is not listening to you, find somebody who will, because there are doctors out there who will listen to you and who will advocate for you.
Yeah.
Don't stay in a place where you're not heard. You might still be respected and adored, but if you're not heard and people aren't attending to your like medical issues in the right way, like you have the right to go somewhere else. So that would be my best piece of advice. That's what I would probably do over again if I could.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Melissa, as we near our time, you've turned your pain into purpose in such a powerful way. And you've spoken, even this evening about, being obedient to God. And I know even just sharing your story in a platform like this is evidence of that obedience. I would love to hear from you just, what is your vision for uplifting others who are walking in their own grief journey? And how do you want to continue to honor Faith's legacy?
Yeah, that's a part of Angela's curriculum. Rockabye Angel is about leaving a legacy. So right now it's just sharing, being on different platforms and just elevating. Um, I think my biggest thing that I really want to do is create like an organization in Faith's name,
Mhm.
or a foundation, and do some actual like training and development in our hospital and medical systems
Mhm.
around how to support either with maternal health or with grief. So, for example, something that I recognize in the hospital is when your child is in NICU or you experience a loss of your child, they still put you in the mother baby unit. So you are hearing babies crying
Mm. Wow.
when your baby has passed away. That's like one of the worst feelings. And so I
Yeah.
would love to see some different things happen in our hospitals where there's a special unit or wing for parents who are in the NICU or parents who are going through a grieving and loss,
Yeah.
where they can be comforted and supported, and it's not a reminder of like the child that may not be coming home with you.
Yeah.
And just creating curriculum, just different things for our hospital systems and for our medical staff so they can engage in some work around this, because I
Mhm.
definitely encountered a lot of hospital staff, not a lot, not all of them, but some of them who were really disrespectful, who talked negatively over faith in the NICU.
Mhm.
Lots of different things were coming up. I had some that treated me really terrible in the mother baby unit.
Mhm.
Just the training aspect of how do you support a grieving parent, or even just how to support a parent who's recuperating from surgery.
Mhm.
So I'm hoping to do some work around that in honor of like Faith's legacy.
Yeah.
Um, So, and I know Sunday, for example, one of my friends who is the CEO of the Rest Spot, we're going to be putting on, along with another company, a therapy session. So, if people are in Atlanta, we're going to be doing a free session for women to come together and to honor the children that we have lost. So, I'm excited about that too. So,
Awesome.
just
Well,
just start getting out there.
I love it. I love it. Well, definitely share that information with me. I will put it on our platform so that we can share that information about that event in Atlanta. But I want to speak encouragement to you, Melissa. You have been blessed with so many special gifts in this amazing journey that I believe you will be able to transform the development and training of folks in hospitals, right? To hear just even that example. And I know you were a bit back from our younger days when we
Yeah.
first got into education, and that is a gift that we have. We can see a gap and we can fill it. Something as simple as, why would you continue to have a family, right, who is experiencing a loss? Right. And we just need to change some things up. And so I want to speak that into you,
Oh, thank you.
encourage you, and support you in that, and respect and honor the journey that you're continuing to go through. Because as you've said, the grief doesn't ever quite go away, right?
Yeah.
Faith will always be a part of you and your family.
Oh,
So
thank you. I'm
you're
gonna keep that nugget in my spirit and just try to move forward with it. That's a
yeah,
mindset thing for me. I have to be okay charging ahead in that arena because the
yeah,
healthcare arena is a lot newer to me. And
yeah,
sometimes I feel like you have to be such an expert in
yeah,
these spaces. But
right.
I have me and Faith's story, which I think
Mhm.
makes me an expert in my own right. And I think there's
Yes,
other women who and
yes.
families who have gone through it. And I think if we can all come together, we can form a really powerful unit to do some changes in our hospital systems, like,
I love it.
to help those who are coming after us. So I received that. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Well, Melissa, this has been just a great honor to have this conversation with you. You're getting lots of love in the chat. And so thank you so much for your time this evening. I do just want to allow you to have, any final thoughts or words of encouragement for Black and brown women who are seeking to thrive in general, or in particular, dealing with experiences of infant loss and pregnancy loss.
Yeah, for those who are experiencing loss, like I would just say, get the help that you need. Do not stand in silence and do not sit in silence. There's a lot of resources out there to really support you, and it's just like just jumping in and just getting into it. And then for just everyone, I just pray that God's blessings over everyone and prayers that everyone thrives in the purpose that God has created them for. So, but thank you so much, Allison, for having me in this space tonight. I really
Absolutely.
appreciate it, especially for this important month that we're in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Melissa, thank you so much for your time this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Listeners, thank you so much for joining us for this very important conversation. I really do hope that there was something that you could take from this conversation, especially if this topic was new to you. And I pray that you will share this episode with others to help build their awareness. For any mothers and families who have experienced infant loss or pregnancy loss, our hearts, our prayers, our thoughts are with you. We understand how incredibly challenging and painful that experience can be. And what I want to do now is just show you some resources. As Melissa shared, the pain doesn't quite ever go away. But you want to be sure to take care of yourself in the process. So, want to just take a moment and highlight a few resources, some of which that Melissa has shared. Others I was able to do just some research and find them. It was really important to me to find resources also that were particularly in support of Black and brown women. So please be sure to check out these resources. If you're watching this live, this is being recorded. You can hit pause, or you can take a picture of these resources. I believe I also have one of my sisters in the chat who's also shared another resource. But please do not go through this alone. No one should experience pregnancy loss or infant loss alone. As we begin to close out, just want to again continue to share that, my work is really around empowering Black and Brown women in womanhood, motherhood, and career. And that womanhood piece is very real, right? It involves all the things that come with being a woman. And some of those things are joyful moments, and some of those are really painful moments. And so it is a part of my purpose and mission to help empower Black and Brown women. So if you are a Black and Brown woman, Black or Brown woman, and believe that you want some support, you want some coaching, I encourage you to please take some time to sign up for a free empowerment strategy session so we can talk through your needs and areas of support and how I might be able to support you. As we close out, just as always, want to thank you for joining. Encourage you to please follow me on all of my social media platforms, share, repost with your networks, and thank you for joining us this evening. Have a great night.